Hello everyone, Rare Model Reviews here, and today we'll be reviewing a P-Bandai exclusive Gelgoog Johnny Ridden Custom. So this is actually kind of a strange one because the original Gelgoog came out, well, Gelgoog 2.0 I should say, came out around 2007, whereas this came out literally last year. So this is like one of those better late than nevers, I guess you'd say, as this is something that honestly should have came out years ago, but they're only just now doing it, which I find kind of odd because, in my opinion, there's not much they really needed to do to even make this thing. But moving on, we're going to get straight into the colors here. So it, of course, comes in this nice blood red with that deep black here for some of the inserts. So that's going to be there in the legs, arms, chest, the tops of the feet there. Of course, has some grays hidden in there as well, more so for the inner frame, but for the thrusters there as well. Very strange that there appears to be two pairs of thrusters on each foot, yet only the middle section here is gray, whereas this part here is red. But also, of course, has some hidden thrusters there as well under the rear skirt armor. And some additional ones here for the backpack. Now, the backpack is going to be one of the things that makes this the Johnny Ridden Custom, as the normal Gelgoog does not have this backpack at all. It's just, well, nothing back there, which is always one of the weirdest things about the Gelgoog, but I guess all the extra thrusters in the legs and the rear armor is why they kind of didn't end up giving it a backpack. Kind of didn't need it. So we're going to get into articulation, but I guess at first I wanted to kind of show off that it does have the gimmick of the opening cockpit hatch there. Now there's a figure of Johnny in there, but these things are always so deep and dark, like you can't even see in there, but it's there. Now going into the stickers of this thing, the original Gelgoog rather came out in 2007, where Bandai was in this weird phase where they didn't want to use the traditional stickers, so they used everything but. So this thing had some dry rub-on decals, some of the sticker style decals, and for the P-Bandai exclusive version of this Gelgoog here, it has the water slide decals. So the mono eye here, as you can see there, it's pink. This is actually a water slide decal, which I did put on. Although I will mention that I'm not very good at water slide decals, so I got it on, but just barely. And the piece that I put the decal over is just a clear piece. So if you wanted to, you could have just colored that in pink if you didn't want to use the water slide decal. But going into articulation here, so I feel like I've kind of gone on enough. The head can actually move 360. However, this is one of those unique gimmicks that they did with the Zaku 2.0, if you guys noticed there, where we move the head side to side, the camera kind of moves with it. So moving at 360 kind of ruins that little mechanism, so you have to kind of be careful with that. But again, that is something you can do there. So you see, because I moved the 360, it's not quite aligned straight now, so that's like always the thing you got in mind about moving that head so much. Now the arms, they move out pretty decently. So you'd be able to kind of get a bit of a cross arm pose here. Overall, just get a lot of the poses you would want with the arms. Now, one thing I did want to mention about these joints is this kit does use poly caps. However, I find a lot of 2.0s are really stiff, like the joints and all that. So even though it does use poly caps, which usually are pretty structurally unstable for these kits, this thing actually holds up pretty well so far. And from all the other 2.0s I have, those things like 10 plus years old in my collection, they're still holding strong. So I'm going to go ahead and say these joints are going to be pretty solid. You're not going to really need to tighten them up or anything unless you really pulls this thing a lot. Now you can see with the legs, they do wobble a little bit, so they're not all that stable there, but nonetheless, you shouldn't have any problems with this thing not holding a pulls. Now, one thing I also wanted to mention is I have a lot of issues with getting these arms in the joints here. They're supposed to be in a bit more than this, but I'm afraid I was going to break this thing because it has a very long peg, and this thing just will not get in. So this is kind of the most I'm brave enough to get this thing. The arm's still holding pretty fine, but you can see here from when I'm rotating the arm, you know, that is way more protruding than it should be. But nonetheless, it still seems to hold up just fine. The arm not quite in all the way. As you can see, go 360, rock side to side, swivel a little bit. See, like the arm kind of came out because it's not in there all the way. But yeah, as you can see, it can go up pretty far. Perfect bend out of the arm there. Can move three. Not great. The thumb came off. Can move 360 under the shoulder here as well. The arm here is on a ball joint. Oops. Wow, I'm not even showing that on camera at all. Sorry. Arm moving a ball joint there. Swivel around a bit. I'll show the other hand since the thumb just popped off. That was my bad. So the thumb can move independently, 360 around. The hands here, there's like 3 of them that's connected here. And then you have the trigger finger, of course, that's like separate. So you can get some wide range of movements out of the hand here. And they also have like this kind of like knuckle piece here. I don't know if you guys will be able to kind of make that out, but as you can see, they kind of like move all these like different little digits. So although the 2.0 hands were really hit and miss, I always liked them because they felt so detailed, but the problem was always with holding the accessories, which is why they end up just going with the bracket hands we see in most kits now. So two front flaps here go up like so. So side one here wiggles a little bit. And then the back flap here moves a bit as well. Only problem with these flaps having so much movement is you can never quite get them flush. So it always looks a little odd, the skirt here on this thing, but it still is nice to have so much articulation. The thrusters, all of these can move independently under the rear armor here, which is very cool. So you can do a lot of cool things with that. Oops, if I can get it in camera while I'm doing this. So another thing you also have going on here is the backpack. So the backpack, both of these little booster pods here move independently. Don't believe there's any other articulation with this thing. Now, the legs are the most disappointing thing about this kit, as they are very restricted in movement. This is literally the most you can get out of this bin. And it's just such a shame, because if you could make it out under the armor here, there's like this cool mechanism, as you can see here, where like stuff slides and moves out. So I was really hoping this thing would be able to move more than this. I can't even say the articulation is restricted because the armor that's just the most it goes. So it's a little disappointing. For the most part, you can get most of the aerial poses you'd want out of this thing. And the toe movement on the foot here at least makes up for it. So as you can see here, it splits open like so. So you can get some cool launch poses with it. And you can really see the thrusters there as well. And that this piece fell off. I guess I didn't put that on quite right. I don't know how that possibly fell off. Then moving on. Has some side-to-side pivot here. Like I said, it can go up pretty high up, I guess you could call that, on its tippy toes there. There's also like some side-to-side movement you can get out of this thing as well. You can't really tell with the armor on, but if you were to have this little piece here off, you'd be able to see it moves side-to-side a bit more. And then you can also see that the knee kind of splits open when you bend it as well. So I think that's about it for articulation. I think I've went over everything. So now we're going to get onto this thing's mountain of accessories. And what the heck is going on? Everything keeps falling off this thing. That is one of the thrusters for the foot. There we go. So, okay. So like I said, this thing has a lot of accessories. And most of the accessories are things reused over a variety of different kits. More so, of course, the Gelgoog itself, but first off, you, of course, have the pilot figure for Johnny Red, just molded in red. One of the more interesting things it has going on for it is there's 2 different antennas. So this is more of like the TV series antenna, whereas the one we have on is kind of more like a modern iteration of it. So you would simply just pluck that off, and then you'd put the classic antenna right on in there. Now another thing it also has going for it is with the head here. Oops, plucked off a bit more than I wanted to. But yeah, you just move the top of the head off like so. And then there's actually like a grunt type version of the head here. So if you want to say Johnny Ridden got demoted, voila, now you have him without the commander's antenna. Next up, we have the beam rifle. So this is going to be coming straight out of the normal, well, rather Char's Gelgoog. So there is a little hole here in the rifle, so you can hold this thing in any hand. I'm going to, of course, put it in the right hand. Now, one weird thing I have about this problem I have with this rifle is the way that the trigger is. As you can see here, both the what is that? The middle finger, here, and the index finger, like just the way this rifle was made, it's like you can't quite put this thing in a hand with just the trigger finger up. It's like the middle finger always kind of collides with this little piece here on the bottom of the gun here. So that's one issue I have with this gun. Otherwise, it does hold in just fine in the hand. Of course, it hold in a little better if I had the thumb, but this is, I cannot get this thing in without the middle finger getting in the way. So it's a very strange how this gun's configured, but nonetheless, there is also a piece here that allows you to peg the gun here under the I guess you call this the barrel. And what you can do with this is on the backpack, there's these little red segments here. You can make this out right with my fingers. You just kind of slide that off. And there's another one on the other side I'm going to go ahead and take off as well. But what you can do now is with this piece here, you just plug it right on into the backpack like so. And now he can have him holding the rifle on his back, which of course he'd be able to go and unsheath whenever he wanted to use it. Or unholster, I'm sorry. Next accessory here we have is a double-sided beam saber, aka the beam Naginata. So this thing is actually pretty cool because what they do with this one here, and I also want to throw out that I didn't line this thing. This thing has really big lines for it, so it didn't quite come out the way I wanted to. But moving on, you have two giant yellow beam sabers, which can fit on either side of the saber here. And again, this thing is very long. I can't even fit this thing in the frame. It's that big. But you just plug this thing right onto the hand there. I can line it up properly. There we go. So as you can see, like this thing is just enormous. Like I can't even fit this thing in a frame. That's how long it is. But of course, you also have the beam Naginata effects for it as well. So you could, of course, slide those on out. And voila. So now you have the signature beam Naginata that this thing is well known for. And of course, for those of you who are curious, you can mix and match the beam effects as well. So if you want to have a beam saber up top and a beam Naginata effect on the bottom, you can do that as well. And as you can see, it pegs in just fine, holds in just fine. So that's never going to be an issue of this thing not being able to hold up the beam saber. And of course, if you are done with the beam saber, you just take these, or the beam Naginata rather, you can take that right on off here. And then the backpack here, you just slide that down like so. And then you can go ahead and peg the beam Naginata right there on its rear armor when it's not in use. You just gotta be careful with this thing because you blow on it and it'll fall off. So next weapon here we have is going to be the shield. Now the shield has a lot going on for it, as it has like this mechanism on the back, which just lets this thing move all over the place. And then of course you have the handle here as well, which swivels quite a bit as well. So one weird thing with this thing is they use a screw in the left hand here. I'm gonna guess it has something to do with the shield, as the screws must make the hand a little stiffer so it can hold the shield better. And I will give them a Bandai credit here. There you go. I think I got it now. So voila. So you can actually get in the hand very well there. And one cool thing is, as you can see, you can actually have this thing hold up the shield pretty well. So if you would have the shield forward facing like so, again, it holds it up just fine. This thing doesn't really have any weight issues, at least for the time being. It is very rare for you to be able to get a kit that can do this, that can hold the shield straight out like that. So I love that aspect of it. And of course, you'd be able to hold it more in a traditional way as well. Now, there's actually a lot of different things you can do with this shield. Like, you're supposed to be able to mount it on the back. However, with the backpack on, you cannot do that. So I'd have to remove the backpack first, which I'll do a little bit later. But for the time being, we're going to go on with this next accessory. So that's going to be the giant bazooka. This comes straight off the Dom. And if, at least if I'm not mistaken, it's the Dom first. But I know this also comes with the Zaku 2 as well. The standard type 2.0. So as you can see, this thing has a lot of different things going on for it. There's a little flap here that moves, the secondary handle, the scope moves all over the place. And there's also another mechanism in here where you can actually move the scope up and reveal there is a sticker in there. Now, what's one interesting thing they did with this and the last accessory I'll show off just a bit is these are actually the plastic stickers, which is like a new thing they started doing with, I believe, the Strike Freedom Extreme. So it's like, it's a sticker, but it looks more like a clear plastic piece, and it just looks so great. And another cool thing I'm going to give Bandai major props for is they actually have an exclusive piece here for the center trigger mechanism here, which is custom made for the Gelgoog here. And what it is it's made to better match the pegs in the Gelgoog's hands. Unlike some other P-Bandai kits they do, where they don't properly match the pegs, and as a result, they don't hold accessories quite right. Now, for doing something like this, you don't even need to peg it in the hand. You just kind of throw it over the shoulder. But as you can see, it's a little finicky as to whether it'll even stay on or not. Another thing that I always have a problem with these giant bazookas is the little piece for the scope. They do not want to stay on at all. So you're honestly better off just closing it to make sure it stays on. It usually won't fall off if you do so. But if you wanted to actually make this thing work, first and foremost, I'm going to take off that beam saber because I know that's going to fall. But you're going to have to put it under carriage like this. Like under the shoulder. I don't know why I said under carriage. And it's a little tricky to line a peg in there without you visually seeing it. But when you can get this thing pegged in the hand, it does usually stay. Again, though, if I didn't mention so before, there's only pegs for the right side of the hand, so you cannot get them in the left side of the hand for this bazooka. So if you were to put this thing in his hand, again, you're gonna have to do it with just the left side here. If you can even line the pegs up there. Oh crap, I don't know why. There we go. Yeah, so again, as you can see here, once you put it in the peg, it stays on pretty well. No issues with it at all. And for the next accessory, we have this, I don't know what you'd call this bazooka, but it looks cool and it has a scope on it. So I don't know if you'd call this a scope bazooka or what, but as you can see here, there's a secondary handle that kind of spins around, swivels. And then again, you have two more of those plastic stickers, which just looks so amazing. I love plastic stickers. And then again, you have the peg, so you can put this on either the right or left. I, of course, will be putting this thing on the left hand here. And hopefully I can get this thing in the hand a lot easier than the giant bazooka. It's just so tough doing it blind. You kind of have to look at it. So there you go. So I got this on a lot easier than the other one, as you can see. And again, no issues holding this thing at all. And it just looks amazing holding both of them akimbo style. And again, if you're done using these things, all you do is peg them right on into the backpacks here with these little adapter pieces here. You, of course, have two different ones, and you need the specific one for each bazooka here. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it doesn't matter which way you put these things on, as I believe they're dual-sided. But the specific bazooka you put them on does matter, as they only work with one or the other. So I believe this is the right one here for the bazooka. I think they want you to put it on like this. There we go. And then it was the giant bazooka. If I'm not mistaken, they want you to put on like this. There we go. So voila. So now he has both his bazookas on his back. And of course, you can't put the beam rifle on as well. It's only 2 weapons for the backpack. So if you want to put the beam rifle on, you're kind of out of luck there. Now, I believe that is it for all of its accessories. The only last thing I'd really be able to show off here would be you, of course, taking off the backpack like so. And then you could use the default backpack piece here. So once you do that, you'll then be able to use the accessory piece here. I believe this is it. I could be wrong. I want to say this is the one for the it just looks like it fits enough. So yeah, this would be the one to put the beam Naginata on the back here, like so. And if I'm not mistaken, this should be the one that allows you to put the shield on. So what you do is you just, oh, if I show it on camera, you just go and slide this little piece here into this little adapter piece for the shield. And then you go and plug that piece there into the back like so. And voila, now he has his shield on his back as well. So that's about it for the Gelgoog. I'm going to end this thing off with a size comparison here. And that's going to be to the Goof. And as you can see, I had no idea, but the Gelgoog is a lot bigger than the Goof. Now, I always kind of said that the Gelgoog kind of was like a big stocky guy, whereas you'd have like the Dom, which is kind of a heavy set guy. But geez, I always thought the Goof was kind of stocky itself, but I had no idea it was so much smaller than the Gelgoog. Like this thing's got to be at least 3 meters smaller than it. So I'm not sure if that's in scale or not. I'm going to assume it is, but geez, yeah, it definitely makes the Gelgoog look a lot more intimidating though, being so much taller and wider than the Goof here. Now, verdicts on this kit, I'm definitely going to recommend it. Although the issues with the legs bother me because I really was hoping this thing would be able to move a bit more. Just the sheer amount of accessories this thing comes with, how amazing it looks. It is overall a pretty fun build. There's a few areas that gave me a bit of trouble as, again, this was like a kit from 2007. So although it's not as tough to build as the earlier Master Grades, it still isn't as simple as the latest Master Grades are. So you definitely want to take your time and pay attention to some of the steps, which I messed up on a few. Thankfully, my part separator came into play here, and I was able to fix those without anything breaking on the kit. But again, yeah, just definitely double check and take your time with a lot of this stuff, and it'll come out just fine. And this is you just really have to like give Bandai props for all the detail and effort they put in these things, like the inner frame. I wish I could take this thing apart and show it to you guys. There's just so much detail you have on this thing. Like I didn't mention it before, like you have the vents on the back of the arms, etc., on the shoulders there. There's like a whole ton of different stuff with the legs. Like I'm sure if you guys see my box, you would notice there's like little plates you'd be able to take off with the legs, so you can see kind of the inner frame and the legs here and stuff like that. I can't quite show it off on the camera here under it properly because it's like red on red, but I believe on the default Gelgoog it's like gray on pink for sure. And then one weird thing they did with the bazooka, I'm gonna bring this thing back out. I don't believe I can show it here because everything's like connected, but there's like actual rockets inside the bazooka here, but it's like, of course, you have like this piece here covering it, and it's just like unnecessary detail, but it's still cool as there. So they did the same thing with the Zaku machine gun. It's one of those like bullets you'll be able to see inside the drum if you lifted up a little cover for it. But again, I feel like I've kind of drawn on this thing long enough. And one thing I also want to mention is it does has a adapter piece for putting this on the action base. I should have actually brought one over so I could have showed it off on one, but this thing's already kind of dragged out long enough. So for the sake of not making this review go on longer than it has, so I'm going to end right here. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Rare Mod Reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next review.